Thanks for being with us. My name is Daryl Kwao. In our first story, the UK Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has indicated plans by his country to enter into a free trade deal with Ghana. This is coming after Britain's exit from the European Union, a process expected to be completed next year. There's more in this report. The UK Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, as part of a day's working visit to Ghana, met with Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen at the British High Commissioner's residence. Addressing journalists after the meeting, Mr. Johnson emphasized Britain's exit from the EU would not negatively affect UK-Ghana trade relations, contrary to earlier concerns. He said it rather opens up the opportunity for UK and Ghana to enter into a free trade deal.
We may be leaving the EU, but we are not leaving Europe, so we will continue to be very much involved in trade with our friends and partners in the EU. And we will, of course, continue to be working together with them on an intergovernmental basis on a lot of the things that matter both to the UK and to Ghana, whether it's counter-terrorism or our collective security. We will be continuing to be a powerful voice for Ghana in Europe. But as for our relations with Ghana, this is an opportunity to go a step further. And what it will mean, concretely, is the chance to do a free trade deal. We can go ahead now and, let's be clear, there are plenty of ways in which our economies could mesh together more closely.
The UK government, through a multi-year project dubbed Engine, has supported various micro and small enterprises in Ghana. Mr. Johnson took the opportunity to engage some beneficiaries of the project. He pledged the British government support for the development of micro and small businesses in the country.
It's been very exciting for me to see some of the ways in which the UK is helping to champion Ghanaian businesses and to help them to move up the value chain. And so it's been great to see Ghanaian chocolate, Ghanaian-made chocolate, which I hope will be sold in the United Kingdom. Ghanaian-made shampoo and other cosmetic products. Mayonnaise from Ghana, ketchup from Ghana, rice from Ghana that is going to, I hope, be exported as well. And we've had some absolutely fantastic conversations with members of the Ghanaian business community as well.
Ghana remains a significant trading and development partner with the UK. In other news tonight, the number of banks operating in the country could increase to about 38 by the end of this year. This is because about 4 institutions have secured provisional licenses from the Bank of Ghana to begin full banking business. Head of Banking Supervision at the Bank of Ghana, Raymond Amanfo, has been given the names of the 4 institutions that could soon join the League of Universal Banks in the country.
Depending on what risk you want to take and what risk profile or risk-related products you want to do, you develop what we call an internal capital assessment process, what we call ICAP. So the bank then develops this process, and then discuss with the regulator, the supervisor, banking supervision, to go into it and see that, given this nature of business that you want to do and the risk associated, is your capital, minimum capital, enough, or you have to top up the capital. If it means that you have to top up the capital, then by the internal capital assessment program, you would then sit down and agree that, yes, maybe I need X more capital in order to undertake this kind of products or arrangements that I've made. Some may say that, look, we want to go on low key, we want to maybe do SMEs, or we want to do salary credit. For that matter, the loans are purely backed. We don't want to go into any derivatives, and that we want to remain simple, do just LCs and that. And therefore, the risk related to this is not much. So on the assessment of that, our minimum capital is adequate. They have provisional licenses. If you say they have secured, provisional licenses are provisional as long as you meet the conditions. If you don't meet the conditions, as we speak, it's only one of them that has brought final documents of arrangement which we are reviewing, is Ghana Home Loans, which is basically, I would say, becomes more like an international bank because majority of the shareholders are IFC. You talk about certain international investment institutions Those are the ones that we have got, and we are reviewing.
Government might have some challenges in getting all the money from the Heritage Fund to aid its free education policy this September. This based on revelations. The new administration may struggle in amending the required laws before the next academic year. George Rafi joins me in the studio with some more detail. The birthday boy, nice to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you so
George.
much, Dara.
So help me get this. Government has got a majority in Parliament, but may not be able to touch the Heritage Fund.
So a Frenchman would say, voila, that should have been so easy for government to do this. But again, some of these laws are structured or done in a way that nobody can sit down, be his whims and caprices and do what he or she wants to do. So you need that simple majority, more numbers of parliamentarians to vote on this thing. Also, the same law says that post the establishment of the fund, it should be in operation for about 15 years before you can touch the fund and use it for whatever you have to do with it. But if you look at all these things that government has to do, and even it's going to be done under certificate of emergency or urgency, some of the parliamentarians or members of parliament are saying that it might be very difficult for government to do all these things before the next academic year starts. And if you can't do all these things, then there's a likelihood that you might have some challenges in getting the required funds from the Heritage Fund to support this free SHS.
All right. Tell me, how much is it going to cost government to pursue this policy?
Well, these are not hard numbers that we have put together, but some civil society groups, economic think tanks are putting the figure at 3.6 billion Ghana cedis. Now, wow. Dara, if you try to look what we have in the fund right now, you convert it from dollars to about Ghana cedis, you're looking at somewhere around 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. That's the whole fund. Now, what the minister was proposing is that he will use a fraction of that fund, about 50%. So it tells you that that would maybe meet about a half of what they want to use or they have to get to fund this free SHS. Yeah. So there is even a problem there, even if they want to take the whole Heritage Fund to actually use that to finance education.
All right, so well, if they can't touch the Heritage Fund, are there alternatives? Could they sort of fund it somewhere else?
These alternatives might take a while. Donor funding is one. Don't forget, some of our donors believe in this basic or free education. So therefore, they are willing to support that. But how much are they prepared to give? And you know, there are structures in place in even trying to draw down these funds, and whether even these funds will come in time for them to actually support this. There's also an option of taxation, and a government that is trying to cut off taxes. The little they want to do is to hike any tax rates. What we also hear that there could be some realignment of funds as well. So there were a certain fraction of funds should have gone to certain sectors. Maybe they will push a little bit more into this policy to ensure that indeed comes to pass.
All right. Thanks for your analysis as always, George.
Thank you, Dara.
Happy birthday to you once again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having you in the studio. Now, we'll still stay with this subject for some time because the Executive Director of the Integrated Social Development Center, ISODEC, Dr. Steve Mantiel, has suggested some alternatives to funding the free SHS policy instead of going in for the Heritage Fund. In an interview with Joy Business, Steve Mantiel said the annual budgetary fund allocation, that is the ABFA, is an alternative if government wants to fund the free SHS policy with revenues from the oil and gas sector. Now, according to him, the revenue accrued from the Heritage Fund is insufficient to fund such a policy for now.
In principle, I and my organization are in support of using oil money to support education and even health in this country. And indeed, the PRMA in its current form, the Petroleum Revenue Management Act in its current form, permits the use of petroleum revenue to finance education. The 70% ABFA that is set aside for spending today identifies education as one of the priority areas that can be selected for funding using the ABFA. So nothing stops the government from prioritizing education in the current year's budget and saying, for instance, that I want to use half or even more of the 70% allowable for use on education. If I were government, I would convene a national dialogue to pull together ideas for ensuring sustainable funding of a free SHS. Currently, as I speak with you, how much do we have in the fund? It's less than $300 million. That translates into about 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. How much do we need to finance the free SHS? 3.6 billion. Will 1.2 billion be enough even if you were to rate the entire amount in the Heritage Fund? The answer is no. But then if you went into the ABFA, which is 70%, not 9%, 70%, you can get much more out of there to support the free SHS.
So in that sense, you think the ABFA rather should be touched if they really want to?
Yes, and see, and that's the point I make. You can do that without having to even amend the law. Because the law provides that you can prioritize education and spend ABFA on education. So why do you have to go through the hassle of generating public controversy and all that in order to touch just a mere 9% when you can touch 70% without any controversy? You see, the Petroleum Revenue Management Law is just like any other law in this country. In fact, that law has even gone through one amendment already under the previous administration. And nothing stops the new government from amending the law. The government can decide that, look, I want to even abolish the Heritage Fund, the Stabilization Fund, everything, and we are going to go back to the way we are treated mining revenue.
Without alternative sources, if we want to fund a free SHS?
I think we can look in the area of taxation. And I strongly believe that we should be financing the free SHS in the medium to long term from our taxes.
All right, I want to take you now to the Ashanti region where the Odotobiro Bank has awarded scholarships worth 41,500 Ghana cedis to students in the Amansia Central area to further their education. The initiative, according to the CEO of the bank, Alhaji Baba Siaka, is part of measures to rope in more of the unbanked. Ghana's unbanked population stands at 18.13 million. That's alarming, right? It represents 70% of the populace. This, according to Alhaji Siaka, is due to the lack of attractive incentives by banks to win customers. Would hopefully fix the sound and get back to that story. But in the meantime, efforts to get Ghanaians in the diaspora to subscribe to services of some local banks in the country have taken a further step. It has been made possible through a partnership program launched by MoneyGram and Capital Bank to enable customers outside the country access services of the bank through the MoneyGram platform. Speaking with Joy Business in an interview, Managing Director of Capital Bank, Reverend Fitzgerald Odonko, noted the bank is looking forward for more of such partnerships to enhance its focus of expanding the customer base.
Opportunity, first of all, to be able to extend our banking services to a wider range of customers. Because as a super agent, we can then sign on sub-agents. And more importantly, it enables us as Capital Bank to be able to make our brand of banking available to more people nationwide. So for us, the partnership with MoneyGram International is very important. It also fits into our strategy of being able to rope in Ghanaians in the diaspora who have family back home, who have projects, and they need a partner to be able to facilitate the transfer of money. And we as a local bank are very much committed to that. So this falls within our strategic objectives. What's going to happen is that our services are going to be enhanced because we're going to use this collaboration to also give expression to some new products that we plan to introduce to give all-inclusive banking, make banking available to more people all over the country. So this is a strategic partnership, but it falls within our strategic plan of making banking services easier, simpler, and readily available to more people.
All right, away from the banking sector, and the Ghana Chamber of Commerce is cautioning government to stay committed to its promise of creating an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. Speaking at a press soiree in Accra, the Chamber noted government's failure to enforce the right policies of easing the cost of doing business in the country could see some businesses collapse in the next 5 years. Here's more in this report. One of the concerns government would have to grapple with this year is the high cost of doing business in the country. Ghana moved up from 190 to 108 in the overall ranking of ease of doing business. Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Commerce, Mark Amwako, predicts doom for Ghana's private sector in the next 5 years if government fails to honor its promises towards the private sector.
Cannot continue to have interest rate of about 35%. I mean, you can't have it anywhere. Our interest rate is about the highest in the whole world. Our policy rate is about 25.5, whilst others are having below 10%. If you continue like that, we cripple the private sector. Business cannot borrow to expand. I mean, if you want to set up a business, the best option is to either get an equity funding or have your retained earnings or have people supporting you. Those facilities are not available. So individuals and SMEs are forced to go for a loan at 35%. If you go to the microfinance, the situation is worse. They are microfinance, but their interest rates are macro. Some 10% a month. It means you have 120%. If you continue like that, then businesses cannot expand, and eventually they will end up collapsing. We can also continue having the cedi depreciating continuously like that. It means at a point in time, the value of money you have, if it's in dollar term, is going to reduce. And if you are into import and export, then probably your business will have to collapse.
Meanwhile, President of the Chamber, Nana Appiagyei-Dankwa I, is hopeful Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will address ways by which government seeks to tackle the economic challenges in its first budget reading in March.
We expect that interest rates will come down. So when interest rate comes down, nobody or less people will put their monies in treasury bills. So there will be more other people, placing their monies in businesses and, increase our exports, and the multiplier effect will be quite enormous. We are also expecting that the power and energy will be improved. With that, there will be more, people engaging in their businesses without any interruption.
The Chamber of Commerce is thereby entreating governments to create an enabling environment for private businesses to thrive and also expand foreign investment capital in the country. And you're watching Business Live. We'll be right back after this break. Time now for Business Agenda, presented by my colleague, Kuku Aban.
Thursday, and you're welcome to the Business Agenda. And today we're taking you to the mining sector, and that's where the Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, Dr. Tony Obeng, is asking leaders of mining communities to strategize so that they can take full advantage of the Mineral Resources Development Fund. According to him, they can even use their share of the money to source for loans from banks before the monies are even disbursed.
So if you have that bulk, and then the fund, because it is a fund, you can invest and make more funds. You can also use that as a guarantee for, in fact, the management of it must even look at that. Use that as a guarantee for advance monies to access development. For instance, if a road needs to be tarred and the place is guaranteed, this is my idea though, and the place is guaranteed for revenue at a point in time, you can go for the road, do the road in expectation of that coming. So these are some of the ideas that will be thrown in once the whole infrastructure around the mineral the Minerals Development Fund is implemented.
So that was the Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, Dr. Tony Obeng. And for a reaction, I've got the General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, Prince William Ankra, to help us understand their position about this call. Mr. Ankra, thank you very much for the opportunity. You heard what Dr. Tony Obeng is saying about the fund, what the leaders have to do to enable them to take full advantage of it. Do you support this, or you think it cannot be achieved?
However
laudable it is, it's a question of the dynamics to the extent that, going for loans to really use the mineral resources fund to collateralize it is an issue because interest rates in Ghana. If we're going to get a dollar borrowing, then that makes sense. But I'm afraid that however laudable it is, if you're not careful, before even you hit the main fund, you incur some debts. So my take will be that, look, to what extent rather would the business advance some monies or government advance some monies and use that to really offset it? In that whatever you want to undertake in that mine in a community whatsoever, you don't end up incur additional interest rates payouts.
So for you, they can use the money or their share as a guarantee,
sure.
But then you are worried about the interest in
obviously, that's the key issue here, and how do we deal with that? Yeah, because, these communities, to a large extent, have lagged behind environmental issues because in the past, the money comes to state coffers. And it goes into the main fund and they do whatever they want to do with it. So if there's a need to do what we intend doing now, then let me be sure that we give it a very deeper conversation and devise a more holistic approach that will be beneficial to the communities. So the idea can be good, but I'm not sure that we've really been able to delve into the implication in terms of the financial scenarios. I'm sure that given the nature of the deficit that we've encountered all this while, it's also fair that a fund of this nature serves the right purpose.
So you had the General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, Prince William Ankra. As you heard him, he does agree it can't be done, but he's worried about the interest it may attract. So do join us again next week for another edition of the Business Agenda. It is powered by Joy Business.
Shifting attention now to our interview of the day, and the Ghana Statistical Service has initiated processes towards rebasing the economy this year. The re-evaluation exercise is to ascertain the real growth in the economy in the last 5 years through the inclusion and exclusion of some sectors, among others. The service has begun a survey of the living standards of citizens across the country to this effect. Here's acting government statistician Bawadi explaining to Joy Business the rebasing.
We rebasing to take account of certain new approaches that we want to introduce. We want to, one, introduce the use of code books in the collection of price data from the markets. The code book stems from the fact that we want to actually record the specific outlets for specific products, and we want our field market readers to go specifically to certain outlets every time. If there's a need to change, there's a procedure for doing it. But we want them to read the markets as specific outlets each time they are sent out to read it. And then it will also facilitate supervision so that when those supervising move to check, they would know specifically where they were supposed to pick. The market readers were supposed to pick prices. Then we can check to see what is actually happening, that people are not sitting somewhere else recording, but are going to the specific outlets to record the information.
So this is happening this year?
Yes. Apart from that, we also introducing the use of tablets, electronic tablets, so that immediately the prices are picked from the field, we can transfer them into a database.
And there's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching.